They say an Omega's worth is tied to the Alpha who claims him. I learned the hard way. That was a lie. When my Alpha of 5 years threw me away for a wealthy heir, he smirked and said, "Keep the trash." He didn't realize the city's most feared Mafia don was listening. The rain in Dakota always felt more like a punishment than a weather event, especially when you were standing outside a restaurant you couldn't afford. I checked my reflection in the dark, rain-streaked glass of Le Ciel, a Michelin-starred spot tucked away in the Gold Coast. I adjusted the collar of my worn trench coat, trying to smooth out the frayed edges. My name is Rowan Hayes. For 5 years, I had poured every ounce of my soul, my meager barista paycheck, and my Omega instincts into Tristan Cole. Tristan was a rising star. When we met, he was a struggling law student, drowning in debt, his alpha pheromones masked by stress and cheap stale coffee. I worked double shifts at a cafe on Halsted Street to pay our rent, typed his briefs until my fingers bled, and suppressed my own heat cycles with black market suppressants so he could focus on the bar exam. Now he was a junior partner at Carmichael and Davies, wearing bespoke Tom Ford suits and smelling of sharp cedar and expensive scotch. Tonight was our 5-year anniversary. He had texted me the address, telling me to wear something nice. I had spent half my rent money on a silk shirt, hoping tonight was the night he would finally give me a mating bite. I stepped inside the restaurant, the warm amber lighting a stark contrast to the freezing downpour. Reservation for Cole. I told the hostess, trying to keep my voice steady. She gave my damp clothes a polite but withering look before leading me to a secluded booth in the back. I waited for 45 minutes. With every passing tick of the grandfather clock in the foyer, my anxiety spiked, souring my natural scent of rain and crushed mint into something bitter. Finally, the heavy oak doors swung open. Tristan walked in. But he wasn't alone. Clinging to his arm was a stunning, delicate Omega. He looked like he had stepped off a runway, dressed in pristine white cashmere that contrasted perfectly with his golden hair. The air around them was thick with their mingled scents. Tristan's cedar wrapped tightly around the intoxicating, sickeningly sweet scent of peaches and honey. My stomach dropped into a bottomless abyss. Every biological instinct I had screamed in agony. My alpha was scent-marking another Omega. Tristan spotted me. His expression didn't soften. Instead, his jaw tightened in annoyance. He guided the blonde Omega to the table and slid into the booth opposite me. "Rowan." Tristan said, his voice devoid of any warmth. "This is Leo. Leo Carmichael." Carmichael, the son of the senior partner at Tristan's firm. "Tristan, what is this?" I whispered, my hands trembling under the table. "It's our anniversary." Leo let out a soft, melodic laugh, leaning his head against Tristan's shoulder. "Oh, Tristan, you didn't tell him. You said you took care of the loose ends." Tristan sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose like I was a tiresome client. "I'm trying to, Leo. Rowan, let's be adults about this. You and I both know this hasn't been working for a long time. Look at you. Look at me." He gestured between his $1,000 suit and my damp, off-the-rack silk shirt. "I'm moving into a different echelon of society. You work at a coffee shop. Your scent is weak. He paused, his dark eyes raking over me with undisguised pity. "You're holding me back." The words felt like physical blows. "Holding you back." My voice cracked. "I paid your tuition. Tristan, I starved so you could eat during your internships. I gave you 5 years of my life." "And I'm grateful," Tristan replied coldly, pulling a crisp white envelope from his inner pocket and sliding it across the table. "There's a check in there for $10,000. That more than covers what you spent on me. I want you out of the apartment by tomorrow night." Tears blurred my vision. The sheer cruelty of it broke something fundamental inside me. I stood up in my chair, scraping violently against the hardwood floor. Heads turned in the elegant dining room, but I didn't care. I looked at Leo, who was watching me with a mixture of amusement and triumph. "You think he loves you?" I choked out, staring at Leo. "He's using you for your father's name. The second someone more powerful comes along, he'll discard you too." Leo's smile faltered, but Tristan's eyes flared crimson. The oppressive, suffocating weight of an angry alpha's pheromones slammed into the air, specifically targeted at me. It was a command meant to force an Omega to their knees. My legs buckled slightly, but sheer, unadulterated rage kept me standing. "Don't you ever speak to him like that?" Tristan snarled, standing up to tower over me. He grabbed my shoulder, his grip bruising. "You're pathetic, Rowan. Take the money and crawl back to whatever gutter you came from." I slapped his hand away. "Keep your dirty money." I spat, turning on my heel. As I walked away, fighting the urge to sob until I was out the door, I heard Leo's delicate voice ask, "Should we have security throw his things out?" And Tristan's voice, clear and loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, replied, "Don't bother. Let him keep the trash. It's what he's used to." I burst out the doors of Le Ciel and threw myself into the freezing rain, weeping until I had no breath left. I was alone, mateless and homeless, in a city that ate the weak alive. A week is a long time when you're sleeping on a lumpy couch in your co-worker's cramped apartment in Pilsen. The $10,000 Tristan offered might have saved me, but my pride wouldn't let me touch a dime of his guilt money. I blocked his number, packed my meager belongings into 2 suitcases, and picked up a second job working for Silver Spoon Catering. I needed cash desperately, which was how I found myself stuffed into a stiff, uncomfortable uniform, balancing a tray of champagne flutes at the most exclusive charity gala of the year. The event was held at the historic Drake Hotel, a sprawling ballroom filled with crystal chandeliers, towering floral arrangements, and the absolute elite of Dakota's underworld and high society. My manager, a stressed beta named Thomas, had warned us in the kitchen. "Keep your heads down, keep the glasses full, and do not make eye contact with anyone. Half the people in that room are politicians, the other half are the people who own them." I knew what he meant. The room reeked of aggressive alpha pheromones, arrogance, power, and danger. I kept my breathing shallow, focusing entirely on the rim of the champagne glasses to avoid spilling anything. I was successfully navigating the edge of the dance floor when a familiar, sickeningly sweet scent hit my nose. Peaches and honey. Before I could pivot and walk the other way, a hand shot out and clamped around my wrist. The tray in my hands tilted dangerously, 2 crystal flutes toppling over and shattering against the marble floor. "Well, well. Look what the cat dragged in," a voice sneered. I looked up in horror. It was Tristan. He looked impeccable in a custom velvet tuxedo, a smug grin plastered across his face. Clinging to his arm, wearing a glittering emerald suit, was Leo Carmichael. "Watch where you're going, clumsy." Leo laughed, taking a sip from his own glass. "Goodness, Tristan, is this what he's reduced to serving us drinks?" The noise of the shattering glass had drawn the attention of several nearby guests. My face burned with absolute mortification. "Let go of me, Tristan," I muttered, trying to pull my wrist free. Tristan's grip only tightened. "Is that any way to speak to a guest? I should speak to your manager. I told you you belonged in the trash, Rowan. but I didn't think you'd embrace it quite so thoroughly. He was doing this on purpose. He wanted to humiliate me, to assert his dominance in front of Dakota's elite, to prove he belonged among them. He released a localized wave of aggressive pheromones, trying to force my Omega instincts to submit, to make me bow my head and apologize. I gritted my teeth, fighting the biological urge to cower. I said, "Let go." "Tristan," Leo whispered, suddenly his tone shifting from amused to reverent. "He's coming this way." Tristan immediately dropped my wrist, his demeanor snapping from arrogant bully to fawning sycophant. I stumbled back, rubbing my bruised skin, and turned to see what had changed the atmosphere so drastically. The crowd was parting like the Red Sea. The ambient chatter in the ballroom died down to a hushed, nervous hum. Walking toward us was a man who seemed to suck all the air out of the room. He was incredibly tall, dressed in a midnight black three-piece suit that fit his broad shoulders with lethal precision. His dark hair was swept back, and his piercing, storm-grey eyes swept over the crowd with bored indifference. But what struck me wasn't his devastatingly handsome face or the intricate dark tattoos peeking out from beneath his cuffs. It was his scent: dark roast coffee, crackling ozone, and rich, worn leather. It was the most potent, overwhelming alpha scent I had ever encountered yet. Instead of terrified, my Omega instincts purred a sudden, inexplicable warmth, flooding my chest. "Mr. Russo." Tristan practically choked over his own spit, bowing his head in deference. "It is an absolute honor. Tristan Cole from Carmichael and Davies. We handled the offshore acquisitions for your import business." Sebastian Russo, the head of the Russo Syndicate, the man who practically owned Dakota's ports and half its politicians. He was a myth, a monster in tailored clothing. Sebastian didn't even look at Tristan. His storm-grey eyes bypassed the lawyer entirely and landed squarely on me. I was frozen, standing over broken glass, my cheap uniform soaked with spilled champagne, smelling of fear and distress. Sebastian's jaw tightened. The air pressure in the room seemed to drop. He took a slow, deliberate step past Tristan, ignoring the lawyer's outstretched hand, and stopped right in front of me. Up close, he was a mountain of a man. I had to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. "You're bleeding," Sebastian said. His voice was a low, gravelly baritone that sent a shiver straight down my spine. I blinked, looking down at my hand. A piece of the shattered champagne flute had nicked my knuckle. I hadn't even felt it. It's nothing, sir. I'll clean the glass right away." "Leave it," Sebastian commanded softly. He reached out his massive, scarred hand, gently engulfing mine. The contrast between his lethal reputation and the absolute reverence in his touch made my breath hitch. He pulled a silk handkerchief from his pocket and pressed it against my minor cut. Tristan, unable to read the room, stepped forward nervously. "Mr. Russo, please forgive the waiter. He's incompetent. He used to be an old acquaintance of mine, but he's notoriously clumsy. I was just putting him in his place." Sebastian froze. The silence that followed was deafening. Slowly, Sebastian turned his head to look at Tristan. The sheer, terrifying weight of the Don's aura made several alphas in the vicinity physically step back. Tristan's face drained of all color. "You were putting him in his place," Sebastian repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. I mean, he spilled a drink, and..." Tristan stammered, his confident facade shattering instantly. Sebastian didn't yell. He didn't have to. He took one step toward Tristan, and the junior partner actually flinched. "I have been watching him for 6 months," Sebastian said, his voice carrying clearly in the dead, silent room. "I watched him work his hands to the bone to support a parasitic, ungrateful wretch who wasn't fit to shine his shoes. Tristan's eyes widened in sheer panic as he realized exactly who Sebastian was talking about. Leo shrank back, terrified. "I was waiting." Sebastian continued, his eyes locked onto Tristan like a predator staring down a trembling rabbit. "For the day you finally proved you were unworthy of him, so I could step in. You called him trash." Mr. Russo, I didn't know." "Shut up," Sebastian commanded. The alpha compulsion in his voice was so absolute that Tristan's mouth snapped shut instantly, his knees shaking. Sebastian turned his back on him, dismissing Tristan entirely, and focused back on me. The cold, terrifying dawn melted away instantly. Sebastian shrugged out of his bespoke suit jacket and gently draped it over my trembling shoulders. The heavy scent of coffee and leather enveloped me instantly, calming my frantic heartbeat. It was a clear, unmistakable gesture in the Omegaverse, a public claiming. "Let's go home, Tesoro," Sebastian murmured, tucking a stray lock of hair behind my ear. I looked at Tristan. He was pale, sweating, staring in absolute horror as the most powerful man in the city led me away from the broken glass, leaving my past and Tristan's future in ruins on the floor. The silence in the back of the bulletproof Maybach was absolute, insulated entirely from the violent winds howling off Lake Michigan. I sat frozen against the plush leather seats, still draped in Sebastian Russo's heavy suit jacket. My cheap catering uniform was stained with champagne and a few drops of my own blood, making me feel impossibly small next to the towering Mafia Don. Sebastian hadn't spoken since we left the Drake Hotel. He sat beside me, reading a text on his phone, his posture relaxed, but radiating an aura of terrifying, controlled power. His scent, dark roast coffee, crackling ozone, and worn leather filled the cabin, actively suppressing the anxiety spikes radiating from my Omega biology. "You're shaking, Rowan," Sebastian finally said, his gravelly baritone breaking the silence. He didn't look up from his phone, but he reached over and turned up the car's heater. I don't understand." I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you do that? Why did you claim me?" Sebastian hit a button, and the privacy partition, separating us from the driver, slid up, sealing us in completely. He put his phone away and turned his piercing, storm-grey eyes to me. There was no aggression in his gaze, only a profound, heavy intensity. 6 months ago in late October. Sebastian began, his voice calm and deliberate. There was a drive-by shooting on Halsted Street, 2 blocks from the cafe where you worked. A teenager ran inside your shop to hide. You didn't know him. You didn't know who was after him. But you pulled him behind the counter, locked the heavy steel security doors, and hid him in the walk-in freezer until the police arrived. My breath hitched as the memory flooded back. It had been a chaotic Tuesday. The boy had been pale, terrified, smelling of burnt sugar and panic. I had done what anyone would do. That boy, Sebastian continued, his jaw tightening slightly, was my younger brother Matteo. The Gallagher Syndicate was trying to make a point. If they had found him, he wouldn't be here today. I stared at him, my mind spinning. The boy in the oversized hoodie, he's a Russo. "He is, and you saved his life," Sebastian said, shifting closer. The warmth radiating from him was magnetic. "I owe you a life debt, Rowan. I had my men look into you to offer a reward, but what my investigator Caleb found disgusted me. I saw a brilliant, selfless Omega working 80-hour weeks, starving himself while his alpha siphoned his paychecks to buy designer suits and frequent high-end clubs. Tristan said the money was for his student loans." I whispered, the sickening realization of my own naivety washing over me. Sebastian's lip curled in a sneer of pure disgust. Tristan Cole is a parasite. Not only did he use your money for his own luxury, but 3 weeks ago he forged your signature on a joint line of credit to purchase a $50,000 engagement ring for Leo Carmichael. He was planning to leave you drowning in his debt. The air was knocked out of my lungs. I felt physically sick. 5 years. I hadn't just been discarded. I had been financially hollowed out and set up to take the fall for a life he was building with someone else. A tear spilled over my lashes, hot and humiliated, followed by another. Sebastian reached out his thumb, gently wiping the tear from my cheek. The contact sent a jolt of electricity straight to my core. "Do not weep for garbage, tesoro," he murmured fiercely. "He is already paying the price." "What did you do?" "By the time we reach my home," Sebastian said coldly, checking his gold Rolex, "Nathaniel Carmichael will have fired Tristan to appease me. The Carmichael and Davies firm relies heavily on my shell companies for their annual revenue. Tristan's career in Dakota is over. His accounts are frozen. He is exactly what he tried to make you nothing." We pulled into the secure underground garage of a sleek, towering high-rise overlooking the Navy Pier. Sebastian's penthouse was a sprawling modern masterpiece of floor-to-ceiling glass, dark wood, and masculine elegance. It was intimidating, but when Sebastian led me to a massive guest suite that smelled faintly of fresh linens and his calming ozone scent, I felt a strange, profound sense of safety. "This is your space," Sebastian said, standing in the doorway. "You have no debt. You have no obligations. You are under the protection of the Russo family. Sleep, Rowan." For the first time in 5 years, I slept without suppressing my instincts, wrapped in the phantom embrace of an alpha who saw my worth. 3 weeks passed in a blur of surreal luxury and slow healing. Sebastian was a ghost during the day, managing his dark empire. But in the evenings, he returned to the penthouse. We would sit by the fire. He would drink scotch, I would drink tea, and we would talk. I learned about the crushing weight of running the syndicate. He learned about my dream of opening a neighborhood bakery, a dream I had buried to fund Tristan's ambitions. Sebastian never pushed my boundaries. The public claiming with his jacket at the gala had protected me from society's predators, but in private he treated me as an equal, not a possession. Slowly my suppressed Omega nature began to bloom. My scent, once a bitter, stressed crush of mint, sweetened into a rich, soothing blend of fresh rain, sweet basil, and vanilla. But a cornered rat is the most dangerous kind of vermin, and Tristan Cole was entirely out of options. It happened on a crisp Tuesday afternoon. Sebastian had assigned 2 discreet guards to shadow me, but I had asked them to wait by the car while I ran up to Toby's, my old co-worker apartment in Pilsen, to grab the last box of my belongings. The hallway was dimly lit and smelled of stale tobacco. As I turned the corner to Toby's door, a hand clamped violently over my mouth, and a heavy, panicked body slammed me against the peeling wallpaper. My nostrils flared as the sour, rancid stench of spoiled cedar and cheap vodka assaulted me. It was Tristan. He looked demonic. His designer suit was wrinkled and stained, his hair greasy and disheveled, and his eyes were wild with bloodshot desperation. "You ruined me," Tristan hissed, his spittle hitting my cheek as he pinned my wrists against the wall. "They fired me. Leo left me. My accounts are drained. This is your fault, you little bitch." I struggled, but the biological disparity between an alpha and an omega was a harsh reality. He was heavier, stronger, and running on pure adrenaline. "Let go of me, Tristan." I shoved my knee upward, trying to catch him off guard, but he twisted his body, pinning my legs with his own. "You think you've won?" Tristan panted, his breath rancid. "You think Russo actually wants you? He's using you to punish me. But if I mark you, if I give you a mating bite right now, you're mine under the law. Russo's traditional. He won't touch a marked Omega. He'll have to let you go, and you're going to fix this. You're going to beg him to give me my life back." Horror iced my veins. He wasn't just trying to hurt me. He was trying to permanently chain me to his sinking ship through a forced biological bond. Tristan lunged forward, his jaw unhinging slightly, his canines elongating as he aimed for the scent gland on the right side of my neck. No. 5 years of subservience burned away in a split second of pure, unadulterated survival instinct. I wasn't the weak, exhausted barista anymore. I was Rowan Hayes, and I was done being a victim. As Tristan's teeth grazed my skin, I wrenched my left hand free, leaving behind a layer of skin as it scraped against the stucco wall, and grabbed the heavy brass fire extinguisher, mounted in the recessed wall box next to Toby's door. With a guttural scream, I swung it backward with every ounce of my strength. The heavy brass cylinder connected sickeningly with the side of Tristan's head. He let out a strangled yelp, his grip faltering as blood immediately sprayed from his temple. He staggered back, clutching his face, his alpha dominance shattering into pathetic whimpers. "You crazy!" Tristan choked on his own blood, stumbling against the opposite wall. Before he could recover, the stairwell door burst open with the force of an explosion. My 2 guards' weapons, already drawn, flooded the hallway, but they were instantly eclipsed by the man who stepped out from the elevator. Sebastian. I had never seen him truly angry. At the gala he was cold and composed. Now he was a force of nature. His storm-grey eyes were practically black, and his alpha pheromones hit the narrow hallway like a physical shockwave. The air pressure dropped so violently my ears popped. Tristan didn't just cower. His knees completely buckled, sending him crashing to the filthy linoleum floor, weeping in absolute primal terror. Sebastian ignored him. He crossed the hallway in 2 massive strides, his eyes frantically scanning me for injuries. When he saw the scrape on my wrist and the faint redness on my neck where Tristan had almost bitten me, a low, terrifying growl rattled in his chest. "I'm okay," I gasped, dropping the fire extinguisher. My hands were shaking violently now that the adrenaline was fading. "Sebastian, I'm okay. I stopped him." Sebastian pulled me into his chest, wrapping his massive arms around me. The scent of coffee and ozone washed over me instantly, neutralizing the panic. "I'm sorry," Sebastian whispered into my hair, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have never let you out of my sight. Never again, Tesoro." He kissed the top of my head, then slowly turned to look down at the pathetic bleeding mess of Tristan Cole on the floor. "Mr. Russo, please," Tristan sobbed, spitting blood onto the linoleum. I just wanted to talk to him. "Please, I have nothing left. You had your life," Sebastian said, his voice echoing with the terrifying final judgment of a Mafia don. "I took your money and your status, but I left you breathing. You have now tried to force a bond on my Omega. You have crossed a line that ends only one way." "No, please!" Tristan shrieked as Sebastian's guards stepped forward, grabbing him roughly by the armpits and hauling him up. "Take him to the harbor," Sebastian commanded, coldly, not looking at the guards. "Put him on a cargo ship headed for international waters. If he ever steps foot on American soil again, bury him under the port." "Rowan, tell him we loved each other," Tristan screamed, his voice cracking hysterically as the guards dragged him toward the stairwell. I leaned against Sebastian's solid chest, looking at the man I had spent 5 years serving. I felt no pity. I felt no sorrow. I felt nothing at all. "Keep the trash, Sebastian," I said softly, my voice steady. "It's what he's used to." Tristan's screams echoed down the stairwell until the heavy metal door slammed shut, silencing him forever. Sebastian looked down at me, a slow, breathtaking smile spreading across his face. The darkness in his eyes vanished, replaced by a deep, burning adoration. He gently tilted my chin up his thumb, tracing the line of my jaw. "Are you ready to go home, Rowan?" he asked softly. I looked into the eyes of the ruthless Mafia Don, who had treated me with more tenderness than I had ever known. "Yes," I replied, leaning up to press my lips against his. "Take me home." 6 months later, the Crushed Mint Bakery opened in the Gold Coast, funded completely by me, using the money Sebastian helped me legally reclaim from Tristan's fraudulent accounts. On opening day, the city's most feared Mafia Don stood behind the counter, wearing a bespoke suit and a dusting of powdered sugar on his lapel, proudly watching his mated Omega thrive. I was no one's stepping stone. I was Rowan Russo, and I had never been happier. If this story of betrayal, mafia justice, and finding true love kept you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more intense, dramatic, and romantic Omegaverse stories just like this one. What would you have done to Tristan? Let us know in the comments below, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload.